¿Te gusta? Do you like it? Do you like what you see? Because here I am, all this gorgeousness and all of this that I believe that I am so worthy.
Seduction is one of those words that make people stop and think. Some people see it as something playful and romantic, while others see it as sneaky, dangerous, or even evil. For some, it evokes images of manipulation, deceit, and lust. And for others, it is a natural extension of charm, allure, and influence.
You say, I'm going to quote you, I really believe that seduction leads to self-confidence, and self-confidence leads to success in all areas of your life. Master seduction, and you can have anything you want.
I think what intrigues so much about seduction is that on one hand, it's a life force. It really wakens up our ability to attract. And
across time and culture, seduction has played an essential role in relationships, social dynamics, and even art and politics. Yet it still remains controversial, especially when exercised by women. And so in today's video, I will try to conclude and maybe even change your mind. Seduction is not morally wrong. It is a natural process in the human mating process, and it is deeply beneficial to learn it. You see, the moral panic around seduction stems not from the act itself, but from the intent behind it.
The problem is that people, when they think seduction, they think sexuality. So they think if it's seductive, then it's about sex and sleeping with people. But seductive is also a trailer for a movie, because it gives you just enough, not revealing, but like enticing you enough that you want to see more.
I gotta watch this movie.
Right, that's seduction. Yeah. There are many forms of seduction that we use daily, all the time. If we just understand the energy, and we can take out the sexuality of it, and it's just the process of enticing.
And the discomfort societies have historically had with empowered feminine expression. When viewed with clarity and without prejudice, seduction is not inherently immoral. In fact, it is a deeply human form of communication, often reflective of confidence, emotional intelligence, and a nuanced understanding of human behavior. Far from being shameful or deceptive, seduction can be a good, even admirable feminine trait when guided by authenticity and respect. And so, in today's video, we will unravel the reasons behind the topic of seduction, and we will try to see, is seduction morally wrong or not? Before passing moral judgment on seduction, I think it is very essential to define it properly. Seduction is an art of enticing someone into a desired state or action, often romantic or sexual in nature through charm, appeal, or persuasion. At its core, seduction is about influence, and influence itself is morally neutral. See, societies have long stigmatized female seduction while normalizing or even applauding male conquest.
Seduction is really about your untapped power that you're not using, that you want to unleash. Would we tell Superman not to stop a bullet? Or a doctor not to save a life? But of course not. Seduction is about charm, connection, vulnerability, pride, self-confidence, and appeal.
This double standard reveals more about historical gender roles than about the ethics of seduction itself. The femme fatale is feared. The Casanova is admired. I think these biases really distort our ability to analyze seduction objectively. And I have always been trying to propose this one value. We can learn even from morally corrupt character, and we can take from them something and turn it to the good. And of course, we will speak about it in more details in this video. After all, as they say, the devil lies in details. Moreover, seduction is not simply a physical act, it is also emotional, psychological, and spiritual.
You know, what I've learned in Cuba from 15 years of studying seduction through the body, by learning how to embody it and how to feel it and how to express it, is that when you're seducing someone, you're actually leaving them full and better off than before. You're not taking something, you're giving something, which is something entirely different. And not only that, but at the core of it is such high self-worth and pride of who you are.
It involves the art of attracting, not the act of forcing. And so, unlike coercion or manipulation, true seduction requires mutual consent, as well as responsiveness. So, in this way, seduction is a dance, not a battle.
The reason that it's so seductive is because I'm thinking inside, te gusta, do you like it? Now, when I think te gusta, do you like it? It's not, do you like it like meat? Like, do you like what you see? Do you want to have it? It's nothing like that. Do you like what you see? Because here I am, all this gorgeousness and all of this that I believe that I am so worthy. Do you like it?
Robert Greene, on his book The Art of Seduction, argues, seduction is about charm, not beauty. It is about the art of persuasion, not brute force. And I think this draws a clear line between seduction and manipulation. It only emphasizes that seduction isn't about overpowering someone, but it is about appealing to them in a way that draws them in willingly. Morally, this aligns more with charisma and influence than deceit. This is why Robert Greene calls it beautifully the art of seduction. So just like in a dance, the couple, the masculine and feminine energy dance together, gets closer and further away, trying to elicit a certain feeling in the opposite partner. It is the pure desire to draw the other to us, to create pleasure and ultimately polarity. And I have always been saying that if you try to seduce your husband or wife or win a heart of another person, not to use and abuse them, but to draw them closer in the pure desire to create a sensual attraction, it is more than good to seduce someone in that sense. And this brings us to the next point. Intention is everything, the ethics of motivation. You see, when people label seduction as immoral, they often confuse it with manipulation. Manipulation involves deceit, selfishness, and disregard for the other person's autonomy.
That seduction is a science. It's not a science, but an art. And that's the beauty of it. It comes from the heart. And like any art, it can definitely be taught. But to fully gain self-expression in it, you have to take the time to master it and make it your own.
And seduction, when practiced with honest intentions and respect, it's entirely different. And so the moral value of seduction lies in its intention. For instance, if a woman seduces her partner to reignite passion in their relationship, is that not a positive, loving act? Or if a person uses charm to draw in someone they genuinely admire and wish to connect with, is that not natural? And on the other hand, if someone uses seduction to exploit, humiliate, or betray, then the seduction becomes a vehicle for wrongdoing. Not because the seduction in itself is wrong, but because the intention is malicious. So seduction is not different from other forms of persuasion. A teacher uses persuasion to inspire students, a leader uses it to guide followers. So no one would argue that persuasion is immoral in itself. And likewise, seduction, when grounded in honesty and care, is simply another form of human connection. Robert Greene in his book says, everyone is vulnerable to seduction because everyone wants to be understood and desired. So Robert argues that seduction is built on emotional needs we all have: connection, attention, and desire. So rather than something immoral, it's shown as a response to universal human longing. When done with awareness and respect, it can actually be emotionally fulfilling for both sides. This is exactly why seduction is an art. It has to be properly measured and applied according to the situation and measured against your intention rather than being called bad. This is why I love making videos on this topic, and I think seduction as well as sensuality is a taboo topic in our culture. It is deemed bad, therefore often forgotten. And I think a marriage without passion is something we should be afraid way more, and we can safely invite the topic of seduction into our level up journey. Which brings us to the next point. Seduction is a feminine power.
Self-love is all about adoring yourself. I invite you to start each day by looking in the mirror and adoring what you see. Look at yourself in a mirror like you are the most beautiful thing you have ever seen in your life. Flirt with yourself, smile at yourself, enjoy what you see. Be proud of the person you see in the mirror.
You see, seduction has long been associated with feminine energy, and this is for a very good reason. While masculinity often expresses power directly through strength, dominance, or assertiveness, femininity tends to express influence more subtly through intuition, allure, and emotional intelligence. Seduction in this light is a form of feminine power, indirect, graceful, mysterious, and deeply psychological.
That seduction leads to self-confidence, and self-confidence leads to success in all areas of your life. Master seduction, and you can have anything that you want in life. Anything.
In a world that often rewards loudness and aggression, the gentle but compelling power of seduction offers a necessary balance. Seduction celebrates beauty, sensuality, and the emotional nuance that define human intimacy. It actually embraces the idea that femininity does not need to mimic masculinity in order to be powerful. You see, seduction empowers women to be agents of their own desire. For centuries, women were expected to be passive in matters of love and sexuality, and our ability to seduce flips that script, allowing women to choose rather than simply be chosen. This shift is not just erotic, it is existential. It affirms the woman's right to desire, to attract, and to act on her own terms. Robert Greene in his book says, a seducer doesn't just offer physical or material pleasures, but emotional comfort, adventure, and escape. I think he describes seduction almost therapeutically, as it offers something emotional or imaginative that people are craving. It is about giving and not taking. So the morality here again depends on the intent. If the goal is mutual enjoyment or inspiration, it is not unethical. Now let's speak about cultural and historical context. You see, history is filled with iconic seductresses like Cleopatra, Mata Hari, and Marilyn Monroe, which I have also already analyzed on my channel. They wielded their charm as a form of influence in the male-dominated worlds. You see, often those women are painted as dangerous or immoral not because of what they did, but because of the power they represented. So society has long feared the woman who understands her own allure and uses it with intent. Yet those women were not only temptresses, they were also strategists, artists, and thinkers. Their seductive power was often a response to societal constraints, a means of navigating a world where more direct paths to power were blocked. And when we see that through this lens, seduction becomes a survival skill, not a sin. Even in spiritual or mythological traditions, the feminine is often portrayed as magnetic, receptive, and enchanting. Goddesses like Aphrodite embody seduction not as a vice but as a divine trait, a force that draws love, abundance, and harmony in the world. Far from immoral, seduction in those traditions is sacred.
You know how some people say that money's bad, but the money itself is not bad, right? It comes down to money gives you power, and power can be used for good and for bad. It comes down to who you are inside. Seduction is exactly the same. It comes down to your DNA and what you choose to do with it. I choose to make seduction classy, and to add to it, my sense of loyalty and integrity.
Robert Greene in his book The Art of Seduction says, to seduce is to manipulate another's emotions, but not always for selfish reasons. Some forms of seduction aim to inspire, elevate, and awaken. And I think this quote perfectly acknowledges that while seduction can involve emotional influence, that influence isn't necessarily harmful. Just like a good story or piece of art, it can awaken deeper parts of someone. And it is morally neutral by nature. The ethics come from how it's used. Now let's speak about seduction in our modern world. In 2025, especially in the wake of movements promoting sexual autonomy and gender equality, the narrative around seduction is shifting. No longer seen purely as manipulation, seduction is being reclaimed as a form of confidence and self-expression. Women are learning to embrace their sensuality, not to please others, but to own their own identity. So feminine seduction is no longer just about attracting a partner, it is about being fully in tune with one's body, one's desires, and one's power. I think the self-possession is not only attractive, but really admirable. To add to that, when we are practicing ethically, seduction enhances relationships. It actually invites playfulness, passion, and depth. It can really heal monotony and affirm connection in a relationship. It reminds us that attraction is not static, it must be cultivated and tended just like any meaningful bond.
We see seduction, let's say North America or Europe, as something that you're taking something away, you're robbing something away from somebody, you're using your powers to manipulate. And these are the words, right? Like robbing, manipulation, using, and all these things. They see it as a positive life skill. So they, inside of seduction, they have something like the elegance of the possession of yourself, right? And inside of that, there's pride. And in pride, you feel good about yourself, about what you've achieved, what you've done, and that's what attracts to you. So it's about self-worth, really. Seduction that would say this is not necessarily a negative thing, it's a power. And like any power, it could be used for good or can be used for bad. I give you money, you can do wonderful philanthropic things with it, or you can go and you can become, a drug dealer with it. What you choose to do with that power has ethics or doesn't. The same as the power of seduction.
Just as Robert Greene says, seduction is not a matter of strategy or technique alone. It is a way of thinking and seeing the world differently through the eyes of pleasure and play. I think this really reframes seduction as a mindset, and one that values beauty, spontaneity, and connection. When it is rooted in genuine engagement rather than manipulation, seduction becomes a form of joyful expression. Now, ladies, on a final note, to condemn seduction outright is to misunderstand it. Just like any form of influence, it can be used for good or bad. But when guided by sincerity, empathy, and mutual respect, seduction becomes a powerful force for connection, intimacy, and transformation. Far from being immoral, seduction, and especially in its feminine form, is a celebration of life's beauty and mystery. It is a reminder that love is not just about logic, but about longing. Not just about action, but also about allure. So seduction, when wielded with grace and good intention, is not something to fear, but something to admire. So in this light, seduction is not just morally neutral, I think it is morally affirming. It is a dance of desire and vulnerability, a testament to the riches of human emotion. And when it flows from a place of love, confidence, and authenticity, it becomes not just a feminine trait, but a deeply human one, worthy of respect, not reproach. Now, ladies, I hope I have convinced you that seduction not only is something that we should embrace in our lives, but especially a quality that we should cultivate and practice daily.